Hello and welcome to the Two Dudes Movie Podcast. This week we'll be breaking down episodes 4 and episodes 5 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and boy are things getting flappy. When I say flappy, I was actually referring to Falcon's flap flaps.
Oh. I always thought you were talking about John Walker's arm.
He also does have a floppy arm now, which is disgusting, and that was really visceral.
It was brilliant.
Because I don't think we've ever seen someone juiced up. I don't think we've ever seen a broken bone, have we? I might be wrong. I don't recall. We've not seen anyone really juiced up particularly injured.
You see Captain America have his arm fractured, but you don't really see much in Endgame, and you see a lot of piercings, I suppose, from like Hela and stuff in Thor movies, but nothing that
brutal.
Yeah, visceral, I think is the best word for it.
Yeah. Anyway, John Walker's a bit of a...
Going ahead too many episodes.
Yeah, but John Walker's a bad guy. He sucks, and we don't like him. Well, I don't.
No. I think, first of all, Wyatt Russell, hands down, amazing. It's brilliant. But yeah, John Walker's an absolute tosser, to put it lightly. And in that first episode, you really... in the fourth episode, you really, really feel it.
Yeah. So I was speaking to someone about this, and they were like, well, what do you think of him? And I was like, well, he's a terrible person. And they were like, but he's not. He's just doing his best, and he's like gone a bit crazy. I'm like, he's clearly a terrible person. Yeah. And I think, like, this is my take on it, but I think it's important. So, the super soldier serum, time and time again, we've been told, but it doesn't change you. It just enhances what's already there. It just makes you more of you. Yeah. And I don't think that John Walker is a particularly immoral person, and I think it would have been easy to make him just a racist guy who doesn't want Falcon to have the shield. But I think it's so much more of him being a soldier, and he has been, as far as he has seen it, he has been given a higher rank, and the way he responds, I think, is just very childish. Yeah. He's never been in he must have been, but it feels like he's never been in a leadership position before, and it feels like he very much basically throws his toys out the pram when he doesn't get what he wants. We see it time and time again, where he's like, but I'm Captain America, I give jurisdiction anywhere, or blah 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 blah, whatever. And he thinks he can do whatever he wants, but he can't.
So what I see it as well is the fact that, so as you say, he's a good soldier, and what's his name? Stanley Tucci's character in Captain America was saying he doesn't want the perfect soldier, he wants a good man. And because of the fact that the perfect soldier, basically, as you see with Wyatt Russell, he's told he's Captain America, his duty is to be Captain America, and that means everything that entails. Now, what you then find is, because of the fact that he's always succeeded at every job he's been given, that's why he's the perfect soldier, he's now having to succeed at being Captain America, and the pressure of that means that he has to succeed at being the hero. He has to be the hero. No one else can take his glory from him. I have to do it. Why is he getting it? And that's where he gets all the childishness from it. And as you say, the super soldier serum then enhances that. It makes that lust. It makes that want to be a good soldier, want to be a good Captain America, become a lust to be a good Captain America, and it's a sin, as you say, Yeah. It's one of those things that doesn't work.
Yeah. I could be misrepresenting the armed forces, but from an outside perspective, it does feel a lot like the armed forces, and again, there may just be potential individuals who are in the armed forces who are sort of stuck in a cycle, if you will, of they're sent to just kill, because I might
That's
be
the way it
seems
to be presented a lot of the time. I understand what you mean. I think obviously I was going to say, having a lot more connections to the armed forces, I can tell you that not everyone is like that, but especially the way it's portrayed in media and in the movies especially is, very much that.
Yeah, certainly not everyone. I just mean I feel like there might be individuals within it who are stuck in that sort of cycle. And I think when we talked about John Walker, or the show talked about John Walker and his achievements, and it felt his achievements were never about saving people. They were about
defeating
wars
the enemy
or fights he won.
Yeah.
And which is the complete opposite of Sam Wilson in the way that Sam tries to protect people. He doesn't necessarily win the fight, but he tries to win the war.
Yeah.
And the conversation he has with Carly specifically,
it's
I
incredible.
think was grounds and sort of proof, and the sort of, if you go, why is this guy Captain America, you just play that scene and you see that it's not about just fighting everyone. It's about trying to actually win, and the win is to stop the fighting. Whereas John Walker thinks the win is, well, if you beat everyone else down, no one will fight. Whereas Sam's gone, well, if we just talk and stop people arguing, if we can all come to an agreement, well, that stops the fighting too, and then there's no bloodshed at all.
Yeah, the fact that Sam kind of understands the Flag Smashers' point of view, especially you have that scene where they're sat discussing what the right course of action is, whether the Flag Smashers are wrong, and you very much feel like Sam's kind of sitting on the fence. And actually that entire 4th episode kind of throws into air who the antagonist is, because even before John Walker takes the serum, and this is kind of like to that point of he was always this person, he intrudes and tries to arrest Carly and doesn't give Sam the time. Sam was going to do it. I have no doubt that if John Walker wasn't there, Sam would have talked Carly down.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Like, that whole episode then seems to be this moral discussion. You have Zemo obviously there discussing with them, whether or not she's going to be a fascist, whether or not she's gone down this certain route. Obviously that comes back into play as well in the 5th episode. And you have these different sides of the argument almost vying for Sam's support. Because it's weird. Zemo almost bypasses James, but bypasses Bucky, and sort of says it directly to Sam, knowing almost that Sam's calling the shots, just like John Walker. He feels like he's calling the shots, which is why he goes and intrudes, whereas actually Sam should have the power in that situation. Which is, again, another testament to why he should be Captain America.
Yeah, that conversation gave me very specific reference here, but for anyone who has seen, and I implore you to go watch it if you haven't, if you enjoyed that conversation and that sort of discussion, there is an absolutely phenomenal speech in Doctor Who, in the Zygon, it's a 2-part episode, Invasion and Zygon Inversion, where Peter Capaldi basically delivers this explanation of war and talks someone down who is ready to start World War III effectively, and just explains to them why what they're doing isn't any different than what their people have done to them. And it's that same thing of like, you just want to do this to other people, and then other people are then going to want to do it to you, and it's just a cycle, which is sort of touched on in the episode, but it was just that very sort of, he got Carly to sort of a root of a problem like that, and it wasn't a lot of talking around it. It was just saying, what do you want here? What is the actual point? What's your goal in all this? Yeah. Because that actually has merit, but what doesn't have merit is murdering people, and that's when your argument loses any sort of gravitas or accountability, because your argument has just become, if we don't get what we want, we're going to kill people, and that's all people are suddenly interested in. And I think, especially looking at characters like Zemo, he seems very, I don't want to say self-aware, but very intellectually aware of the situations that are happening,
and his
and
place
the fact
in
that,
it, sort of thing.
And the fact that people are basically playing their part, and Carly is playing the part of someone who might have started off with good intentions, but she's heading down a dark path that she can't escape from. And Sam is he sees Sam as a sort of naive in-between who won't do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
But also wants other people to trust in him, and he hasn't earned, from Zemo's perspective, that right to tell people, because he says, well, you were on the Avengers.
Yeah.
And he's calling him out for saying, but you thought this was fine before. This is what you've done to other people, but now you're saying no. How do you get that? Why are you allowed to make the decisions, but you're judging this Captain America stood right here?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that whole situation in Zemo's apartment. First of all, I think the inclusion of Zemo in this story, I don't know if he's underused, because obviously there's talk about season 2, and I think he'd definitely come back in that. Maybe we'll see Thunderbolts. We'll get onto that a bit later, but I think that entire bit of Zemo, and then obviously when the Wakandans come in, I think that is one of the best moments, I think, of television, because I think it quite neatly encapsulates what these Disney Plus shows will be. It's a psychological analysis with all the Marvel bits that you're used to with the fights.
Yeah.
And even inside of those fights, you have those psychological bits. You have the Captain America fighting against, and then at the end of them going, they weren't even super soldiered, and they kicked my ass, sort of thing. And then you also have the look, and Sebastian Stan, I think, in this entire thing, the monumental performance from him. Honestly, it's brilliant, because that one look he gives Io when she deactivates his arm, it's just
heartbreaking.
Heartbreak, exactly, and it's in a look within like a second, and it's just what.
One of the things,
and then it ends the fight.
Yeah, one of the things that's been really cool to see on things like Facebook and Twitter are the people do shot by shots of a shot. This is Bucky smiling in First Avenger before he goes to war or whatever, and then this is Bucky smiling in Episode 5 after Sam sort of talked him round and everyone's sort of okay, and it's just, and you can look at them in bigger. We'll look at the smiles in the middle, and they're just not the same. And it's I think tantamount again to the fact that the MCU has lasted 13 years now. 2008, 13 years we're in, and still going strong. Where you can have actors really prove their performance, not prove their ability to perform, but prove their performance has value, and just prove that character is a living, breathing person, and there are choices made within that they understand. And I think secondary credit then just has to go to the creative team for embracing the past rather than trying to create their own version. They move the story forward, which is probably quite a difficult thing for creatives to do. You can't do your own thing. You have to fit within the structure of everything else. Yeah. But doing it so successfully, I think this show more successfully than WandaVision even. Yeah. It's felt like a continuation. Everything that these characters have done so far is on the screens. We're seeing it. We're seeing the next stage in their evolution.
They feel like living people, as you say. They feel like living characters that have evolved over however many years, obviously 106 in Bucky's case, but the 13 years that the MCU's existed, they quite often in one movie an actor will make loads of decisions as to why they're smiling in a certain way, why they're moving in a certain way, and a lot of time you won't get the explanation or ramifications of that until then they're given the same chance over and over again, and you see patterns and you go, okay, well, this is what this means. Just as you would in a person, you get to recognise what a certain smile is, what a certain look means and stuff like that, because you see them do it on multiple occasions. And it's quite often, I think, what gets overlooked in a lot of TV series, because especially long-running ones, because actors are always making these decisions, and it's just a lot of audiences don't pick up on them. I'm really happy with the way that's gone, as in with their psychological side. And on to another big, and probably the last talking point for the 4th episode, Captain America going mental. Obviously, Battlestar died, and
was killed, and I think it's a big deal, and we'll talk about it more. Well, we may as well. Why are we splitting this up? It's a big deal because Captain America decides to lie, and I think that is possibly understated in the episode, but I think just a key to the selfish like just uncaring, completely callous attitude that John Walker has of sort of self-preservation. And
he's not lied to them
that
to spare their feelings. He's lied to them to spare his own.
Yeah, he chases down this man. People are saying behead. I don't know if he was beheaded or he was just stabbed
I think it was
in the
just
chest.
his chest. Yeah, the same way as I think it was to mirror what happened with Tony.
Yeah, I don't know that you see it either way, but
No.
I don't think he was beheaded. I feel like he would have held up the head, like, just bluntly. I think they probably would have done that if they'd have done that. But Marvel put a shot of Captain America holding a shield coated in blood into the world, and I think that's pretty mind-blowing in itself.
Mm.
And then you have John Walker go down this path, and rather than repent effectively and say, I'm sorry, I went too far, I crossed the line, this was my fault, he blames basically everyone else.
Yeah.
And says that he still stands by the fact he did the right thing, which I think consolidates the fact that he is not Captain America.
Yeah.
But he is America.
Well, I think this is the thing. I think that image of the shield coated in blood later gets, I don't know if this is the right word, but I'm creating it, metaphoricalized. It becomes a metaphor when we then have the conversation between Falcon and Isaiah Bradley, where it's the same, the legacy of the shield is complicated. And I think it was up until that point we thought that shield, up until this series, we thought that shield was the beacon of hope. And that's how very much the white side of America, just like we have in normal life at the moment, but the white side of America, including Bucky, sees that that's how it was. It was a symbol of hope. And it's only since really the events of this series that Sam and probably Bucky as well sees that it sees that actually what Sam says in the first episode is that the shield is nothing without the man behind it.
Yeah.
Captain America was a symbol of hope because of Steve Rogers, not because of the fact that he was Captain America.
Captain America was a man and he was called Steve Rogers, and people have since tried to act as if that could be anyone, but we have proved this series with John Walker that it's not true that you can put anyone in that.
No.
You need the person who will represent you in the right way. I think it speaks to a broader sense of like countries iconizing people, and those people create problems. We have it all the time. Seems daily there's some sort of scandal with a celebrity who's been put on a pedestal, and it turns out, oops, this person's a terrible person for this reason. And it shows that you can't, when you're putting your trust in someone, Captain America represents America. You put him on the world stage and said, this is us. And what you've shown them is someone who murders foreign entities, which is not a good look at all.
No.
But then what has really sort of, not shocked because I don't think it's in any way shocking or surprising, but has sort of illustrated the point, is that I see people constantly on Twitter coming to the defense of John Walker as someone who did what needed to be done.
What?
But revenge is justified in the context of, well, they murdered his friend, they need to be shown that they can't get away with stuff. And that John Walker is, to some people, I'm assuming we're all Americans, a beacon of hope. And they do consider him to be the ideal representation of America. And that's what I mean when I say he does represent America when he kills someone like this, because there is a huge portion, and we saw it in not the last election, one before, that you can vote a lunatic into power because there are people who agree. They think that is okay, and they think that's true. And
well, I've got a hint for people. It's never right to kill someone, doesn't matter what they've done. End of. Don't do it. End of. Don't kill people.
So it's also
hard.
highlighted something even more fascinating, and I've been involved in a few not discussions, because it was just more I just stated a fact and pieced out of that conversation, but in relevance to Sam Wilson being Captain America and the conversation in key that he has with Isaiah Bradley. Isaiah Bradley makes it clear that something that is sort of transparently obvious if you think about it for 5 seconds, that the super soldier program didn't end with Steve and Sleep for 50, 60 years, whatever it was. but it carried on, and that they did actually use black Americans to experiment on them and basically torture them until they found what they needed to make a new Captain America.
Which is not a fictional thing, by the way. This is actually what people did as well. Not with the super soldier serum, but with other testing. This is how real life happens. Deal with it. Carry on.
And I think it's key to me. I think one of the clearest points is Isaiah Bradley is a super soldier. He has super soldier strength. He was never going to be and was never going to be allowed to be Captain America. They didn't juice him up with the intention of giving him the shield and marching him out as Captain America.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been cool to see him as Captain America, just to like go, oh, that's cool. But I think it's completely incorrect that the government at any point in history would have done that.
Yeah.
And that they juiced him up because they wanted to use him as a tool to create their own Captain America that was successful. And when they found out he was proof that it could work in someone else, they took him, and they didn't parade him around. They just experimented and tested on him to make a different person instead.
Yeah.
For those of you that say, well, they would let a black man be Captain America, there's no one who doesn't want that, and actually they've done it in Marvel, and his name is Iron Patriot. I pose to you the idea that you need to think about the context of who Iron Patriot as a character is and who Captain America is as a character. Now, we haven't seen the final Sam Wilson Captain America costume. That is definitely what's in that box. But what I can guarantee we will see is his face on display.
Yeah.
Iron Patriot did not go into other countries with his face showing. He did not go around the world with his face showing. When you see him land and put the president on the plane, you don't see his face. Obviously, because it's not James Rhodes in there, but there's no confusion as to why is his mask not open? Why doesn't he open his mask and wave at us? Because they expect him to be hidden away.
Yeah.
There is also a clear distinction in terms of the approach of these characters, that Captain America is a leader of the Avengers, of soldiers in World War II, of people. He is someone that people can rally behind and work towards. And that isn't just Captain America, that is Steve Rogers. But that's the icon that Captain America is, a leader. And we see John Walker, he is a leader. He is considered to be, now he's Captain America, a leader.
Yep.
Iron Patriot is never seen as a leader. He is never in command or in control of anyone else. He is, I think, the only time we ever see him is as a solo operative.
Yep.
And if you actually want to look at it, he's actually just Iron Man's second.
Yeah.
And who works for the government. And that basically puts Iron Patriot as a soldier, and Captain America as the leader, as the general. And for those of you saying, well, it's the same, no, it isn't. No. They would allow a black man to be a soldier, but not a black man to be a leader. He cannot be in charge, but he can die for his country, effectively.
Yeah, it was the whole debate that was going around the 2008 election of Barack Obama and just whether or not he should be in power, because it was this idea of, well, a lot of people were saying that, well, why should he, why do we need a black man in charge? Why does it need to be represented that way? It's because, well, if they're in the country, they should be represented in the leadership of the country. Like, that's just how things should work. The idea of leadership, and especially in politics, is that they need that they're a representation of the nation. And so if there are black people in the nation, there needs to be black people in leadership. Simple as.
I think one of the strongest points I have, and I hear this argument a lot, so I'm going to talk about British politics for a bit. So if you don't know about it, just hold out. This makes sense. So the current government is made up of lots of people, and there are, I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but a tiny handful of black or other ethnic minority members of the government.
Yep.
What is said constantly is, well, that's actually a representative percentage of the population. But what you haven't taken into account is the wealth and sort of hierarchy distribution of black and ethnic minority people within a country. Slightly complicated, but basically the idea boils down to, if you actually look at the sort of wealthy, well-educated people who fit into all the other positions of government, all the prime ministers seem to come from private school backgrounds, etc., etc. The percentages are well off when you look at the country as a whole, who are representing them in Parliament.
Yeah.
and not just Parliament, sorry, but the government. And it speaks to this idea that, well, and it's the sort of trope of the token black guy, is you have one person who represents everyone who isn't white, and that's sufficient because it proves the rule that you are not a racist. And again, seeing the
it's like Donald
sheer...
Trump turning around and going, well, I've got a black friend, I can't be racist.
Yeah, it's that exact idea, and seeing the sheer response to Captain America, and sorry, not the sheer response to Sam being Captain America, because he hasn't worn the suit yet, and I'm very curious to see where we're at with that next week. But what I'm fascinated by is the fact that Sam Wilson says that it wasn't an easy decision. We see that conversation where Bucky apologizes to him. We see Isaiah Bradley say no self-respecting black man would be Captain America, and not all that I've seen, but I've seen so much response of, well, they're wrong because actually racism isn't real, and this and this and this. And that no one said he couldn't be it, he said he couldn't be it, Sam's just doubting himself, this and that, this and that, this and that. And I think what these people have done is taken the real world trope of that racism is blown out of proportion and it's not real, and gone, well, what happens if we put that into... that Sam must be imagining the racism, because obviously, as we know in the real world, well, racism isn't real, so it can't be real for them either. And watching people try to genuinely argue, and looking at profile pictures, all white people, try and explain trying to white-splain how racism isn't real and Sam's mistaken, is terrifying to see, because these are the people this has been made for, and they still just can't get over the fact that they're wrong, because it breaks the sort of reality that they exist in.
Yeah, it's very much I'm completely in denial. And you see it. It's like you have these people who are like, okay, you could have excused them for maybe you've just never seen it. Maybe you've never really been around a situation where there's, maybe you come from a place there's no black people. So, of course, you've not going to have seen much racism and stuff. And maybe you've not really paid much attention to the news. So maybe you haven't seen it that way. But this is now showing them, no, you're watching something now that is proving to you and showing you the direct correlation. This is exactly what is happening.
The lived experience, no. You're watching it.
There's no denying it because it's there. And no, it just...
Quick little political sidebar while I'm here, just for future reference. I'll probably say this again at some point. But if you are a white person saying you've never experienced racism or seen it, yes, that's the point.
Yeah.
If you genuinely think that's a good argument, but regardless of that, obviously you haven't, because why would you have? Which, I can't wrap my head around this. It's like, well, why would you watch someone else being racist to someone else because they're trying to convince you they're not racist? All these racist people don't want anyone to know they're racist, but behind closed doors, they are. Speaking from personal experience, just because you don't think someone's racist doesn't mean they're not.
Yeah, 100%.
So just watch yourselves out there. If you're gonna say something, I did get into a bit of spot a bother on Twitter because someone made a point to me and I was very confused. It was in this whole Sam Wilson I'm Patriot thing, and they were just like, well, what about Black Panther? Something along those lines. And I was like, is your point that we don't need any other characters because of Black Panther? And those are the sorts of conversations that I've been having, so that's what I thought. And I thought they were trying to make the point that, well, black people come from Africa, so that's where they belong in that movie, and we don't have Americans.
Oh, that's
they
stupid.
Weren't. And I feel like I'm quite polite on Twitter. I just basically, when people say stuff that I disagree with, I maybe just think about what you're saying, because it might not sound as well as you're thinking. And he was like, no, that's not what I meant. I mean, like, Black Panther, which is another great example, highlights the racial injustice that the world faces, and dealt with that again. And again, you saw the same response of people saying that, no, that's not real. You're wrong. And it's sort of just this repeating cycle of every time someone tries to do it, they're just like, nah.
Yeah.
But
I have two theories. From the last episode, I have two theories.
I have a theory.
And I want to put them in front of you.
My theory is that your theories suck.
Right, so the first one's not actually my theory. So there you go.
Thief.
It's actually my partner's theory. So, of course, in the post-credit scene, which I watched, I've actually watched the post-credit scene. I'm watching them now. Call back to WandaVision. So in the post-credit scene, we see John Walker creating a... I don't know what to call it. It's a fake shield.
It's a shield. He's making a new shield.
But he obviously paints it the same colours as the actual shield. Now, I just think he's just going to use it to go around and say, I'm Captain America, and it's going to end up turning... The blue's going to end up turning black, and it's going to be very much reminiscent of what we know as the US agent shield. My partner has a different theory. What she said is that what he's going to try and do is swap shields. He's going to try and get back the actual shield and swap it for his fake one. Now, I think you'll be able to tell the difference, and it's going to be too obvious, and there's not a chance that you could swap them. But she thinks different. End? So that he gets a vibranium shield again. It's going to be useful.
But for how long? Because he's not going to have it at the end of the episode.
Oh, we don't know that. We don't know.
So to counter, I think it will be transparently obvious which one's which. I think that's sort of a point. I think I'm disappointed it's not already black. I think that's a good idea. I can imagine it being burnt by fire or something and it goes black.
Yeah.
Maybe other darker colours. I think the end of this episode, I said this ages ago, I think it's clear from the Disney Plus shows that the end of the show will end in the movie timeline in exactly the same situation where you can cut the show out and technically the story still makes sense. At the end of Avengers Endgame, Cap hands the shield off to Sam and goes, "You're Captain America now." And by the time the next movie that Sam features in rolls around, he will be on screen as Captain America as if this show never happened.
Yeah.
And I think John Walker as a character will remain entirely on television for that reason.
Well,
because
that's my second theory.
I don't think you can have him now appear on the big screen without having to also explain his entire series.
There's a lot of backstory there. I agree.
Yeah.
Now here's my second theory. As we know, this was supposed to come out after Black Widow.
Correct.
So this theory has something to do with a character appearing, which felt like a lot of look who it is, and yet we're all sat there going, but who are you?
Yes.
Contessa. Now, of course, in the comics, she's very much a manipulator and on the rogue side of good. I think she will appear in Black Widow because I think she's going to be, alongside Ross, something to do with Taskmaster. And the reason why I say this, because I reckon, so obviously Zemo's been taken to the Raft, which we know he's part of the Thunderbolts. I think US Agent will be part of the Thunderbolts now because I think she is the connecting thing. She's the connector between Thunderbolt Ross and the rogues who end up turning into the Thunderbolts. And I think she's basically recruiting him for that mission.
So, I like the links of her to Thunderbolt Ross. It makes sense for both government sort of people. My problem is, and I don't know how this will be solved, and I've seen a couple of theories, I don't know if either of them, any of them sort of stick with me. I think Zemo is headed for the Thunderbolts. I think that's sort of where he needs to be, and I think that's sort of a superhero hunting team. I think that makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense is why John Walker would join that team, but more importantly, how anyone could root for a team that has John Walker on it now, because I
don't think you're supposed to root for the Thunderbolts, so that's fine.
I think the Thunderbolts are sort of Marvel's Suicide Squad. They're sort of the anti-hero team with the featured people like Bucky as well. I think it becomes difficult to root, like, for all Zemo has done actually evil, they've done a lot of work this series making amends and sort of with Bucky and Zemo especially sort of going, respecting each other's differences.
Yeah.
And you see at the end, in Zemo's final scene, Bucky doesn't kill him, gives a little smirk, and Zemo, like, is taken away. And they've got this sort of mutual understanding of where the other stands.
Yeah.
That Zemo would not have blinked twice if Bucky had decided to kill him, because that is the penance that he deserves.
Yeah.
And I think I can root for Zemo now. I think he's a likable, respectable character. I think US Agent has yet to do a U-turn on things to where he becomes someone that you could in any way say, I'd want to work. Why would Zemo ever want to work on a team with John Walker?
Well, this is the thing. I think he would be the catalyst. So this is what I think season 2 might have something to do with. He would be a catalyst for why the Thunderbolts don't work.
Maybe.
Because there's too much between those two characters. What do you think Contessa's there for then?
I think... So I've seen theories of a different team, like Dark Avengers sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's too complicated.
Need a lot more rogues for that.
I don't know that John Walker's like, well, I'll join Hydra or something like that, because he's going to be the US. Actually bad guy. Yeah, I just can't really work out where she fits. It depends, and I think her role in Black Widow could go, well, that's Thunderbolts, that makes sense, or well, maybe she's part of a Black Widow program or something like that. Because
that's why I think she might have something to do with Taskmaster.
Well, but so maybe given MCU villains often don't, maybe Taskmaster doesn't make it out alive, and John Walker is the sort of replacement for whatever Taskmaster was doing. Something along those lines. It's difficult to say. I just don't know that he fits on the Thunderbolts to me. I will say in relation to Season 2, I do not think we will be getting a Season 2 for WandaVision. I don't think we'll be getting a Season 2 for Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Oh.
I think the best bet at Season 2 for Falcon and Winter Soldier is a show called Captain America and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, it will change form, I think. But I think there'll be a movie in between where they appear, and then it will carry on again.
My point on that would be it will either be staying on Disney Plus or going to the movies, which is why I think the show that will follow this, the sort of plot threads, will be Thunderbolts, because I think they will keep that on television, and I think Captain America will now return to the movies, because we don't actually know of many shows that are due to come out. If you look at how many shows we're supposedly having debut this year, being 6?
Yeah,
I think 5 or 6.
5.
We only know of She-Hulk and Moon Knight, I think, unless there's another one for next year.
Is Armor Wars this year or next year?
They've not been dated. They've not started filming or anything like that.
No.
So we don't actually know when those are even coming. And I don't think I think Armor Wars and Ironheart might be silently getting pushed a bit further down the line, because how have they started looking at She-Hulk and casting Moon Knight and all those sorts of things, but we haven't got anywhere with Armor Wars? That seems like this show should be ready to go.
But I think they've spoken about Armor Wars. I think they don't need to do any more casting for Armor Wars, do they? Because do they cast Riri Williams?
They cast Riri Williams, but that's Ironheart. That's what I'm saying. So
I reckon Armor Wars will have her in it and Don Cheadle. I don't think it'll be many new characters outside of that.
But they have to make it. I'm saying they've talked about She-Hulk going into production soon.
Oh, right.
But they've not talked about production on either of those. I don't believe. I might have missed it. I think we will see Thunderbolt. I think it's an unannounced show. It will be coming soon. I think Doctor Strange is really going to change things, which is, I think we haven't seen a movie. What have we got? We've got Doctor Strange, Thor. We know Guardians Volume 3 is coming, and Ant-Man 3. And that's, I think, it for movies that we know are coming out after Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
I think that will change the landscape, and I think they're going to struggle going forwards, Marvel, because things change so much. So Thunderbolts is going to be something somewhere, but they can't tell us that Thunderbolts is happening because we haven't got the reveals yet for it, that it's happening. So we sort of need to get to the end of Black Widow, presumably now, or the end of this series, where we're going to see some setup for
Maybe that has anything to do with it.
Potentially. Basically, wherever this is going, something's going to happen, but we're sort of waiting to get these tidbits to move forward in that. It'll be interesting. We've got one episode left. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see the suit. I think it's going to look good.
Yeah,
I think that's basically going to be like the first shot. I think we're just going to see him in the suit, and that's how it opens. That'd be a
great shot.
Sam Wilson's Captain America.
Yeah.
Boy, he's going to nail it. So we shall see you next time on the Two Dudes a Movie podcast. Please go to Twitter to find my discussions. Please go to Facebook to like us. Please go to follow us on Instagram and subscribe to YouTube or on the podcast app, and like or leave us a review on a podcast app so we can keep doing what we do. And let us know what you think in the comments down below, and we shall see you next time.
See you soon,
Goodbye.
guys.